Welcome back. Well-being and equity in the world is an organization that's advancing intergenerational well-being and equity on a foundation of racial and economic justice. We're in a world that's convening for a community building conference, which is change makers will join virtual participants to take long-term action to advance intergenerational health, well-being, and equity. And joining me now to share more and discuss more is the founder of the Sanchez Center for Health Equity and Senior Fellow at Wellbeing and Equity in the World, Robert Sanchez. And Robert, good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you sharing up. Really, let's talk a little bit about this here, because when we talk about well-being and we talk about equity in the world, somebody may not be so familiar.
Well, I think what we all realize, especially communities of color, that there is inequity in a host of our lives, um, in most of our lives. And one of the ways we in the world are trying to combat that is by bringing different communities together in order to address some of these inequities. Um, so we're creating a space where people who have lived experiences um, get together and we deepen our relationships and we talk about how we are going to approach these issues. Um, and I think this is an important event, and it's something that we are looking forward to sharing and then moving forward. So this is a national movement.
Yeah. And when you talk about inequities, I mean, that's the topic of this show. We talk about inequities that so many people face. When you look at the inequities that are out there right now, what comes to the top of your list?
Well, the top of my list is something that I'm addressing is transplant transplant inequity for Black and Brown communities, and the inequities in the healthcare system that we have to interact with. So, for example, research has shown that people of color in the United States are more likely to experience poor health outcomes than their white counterparts, even when controlling for factors such as income and education. I think some of these things are not only important to look into, but um, are an example of some of the issues that we have to address.
When we talk about healthcare, obviously, and the inequities in the healthcare system and just health overall, we have to admit that after COVID, things were further exacerbated. Um, Give me your assessment on that, and what did you see on your end that really highlighted the inequities for you for COVID?
So, what highlighted the inequities for COVID for me was um, on a personal side. I was getting tested for a transplant, and everything got shut down, and because of COVID, and I saw what the national dialogue was turning into, and it really didn't help how we approach COVID. Um, I think it's something that hurt us. As I was doing dialysis, I personally saw people who were there one day and not there the other day, and the answer for their absence was always, oh, they caught COVID and passed away. I think it's something that highlighted some of the battles that we have in front of us. Um, a lot of these individuals were poor people of color who did not get the same medical attention that they should have gotten. And I was hyper aware of some of these things, especially while I was on dialysis waiting for kidney transplant.
So for yourself, as we talk about going forward and dealing with these inequities, I know that you got conferences planned up. So let's talk a little bit
Yeah,
about what we got coming up in the future that you really want to be able to have these matters addressed.
So we have the spring 2023 Win Week, which is there's going to be people, communities of color from all over the country. We're going to get together and we're going to talk about some of these issues. We created this network of projects and activities, and it's a chance to showcase our collective approach and our programs and help our partners address some of their issues. So it's kind of like, all right, are you addressing this? How can I help you in addressing this issue when it comes to inequity? We're talking about how we approach the prison industry. We talking about how we approach the healthcare industry, um, how we approach other areas of inequity that affect all our lives. Um, so I'm looking forward to that and speaking to individuals like myself trying to make a change.
When we talk about that change, obviously, you want people to hear what you're saying, deal with the inequities. What's your take on it? Because when we talk about the inequities, so many times there are these resistors to understanding
Yeah,
what they are. Some are due to ignorance, others are just out, flat out intolerance. They don't want to tolerate a conversation with this at all. What's
right.
what you said right, like too quick, like you have history.
Yeah, I have a really long history with inequity in my life. Um, from at 18 years old, I was incarcerated for 15 years under the Rockefeller drug laws for my mere presence in an apartment. No guns, no drugs, no one said, "Hey, this guy's selling drugs." Just my mere presence in an apartment. 15 years for a person who's never been incarcerated before, who's never um, who's never committed a crime. Um, Poverty when I was younger, and looking back now as a person who has worked in social work and has done over 20 years as a therapist and as a clinical social worker, to how we interact with the medical system. And I think in today's time where there's especially languages and intolerance for people who who think differently, who want to um, address some of these issues, and there's forces that stop those issues from being addressed. I think it's really really important for us to get together as a community. I think one of the issues we face is that we approach inequity separately, and I think what WIN does for us as a whole, it allows us to all come together and say we're going to approach this together. And I think especially in today's time where the social dialogue has been co-opted, and it's been difficult to to state truths and to deal with that. I think this is a great way for us to all get together and say, okay, you know what, we're going to take back this narrative and we're going to have our own narrative. We're going to be able to tell you what affects us as Black and brown people.
When we look at the narrative, obviously the narrative gets shifted by who tells the story. Many times we
Right.
find that the story is not being told that's reflective of what's going on. Give me some tips, if you will, some ways that we can look at, some ways that we can really get to breaking down some of those things, because part of that conference is really dealing with how do we take the right appropriate action and take the right proper steps, so that way we can have this civic engagement to create change.
I think I, I think actually we cannot be afraid to tell our stories. I think people connect through stories, and we have to we have to take back our stories and we have to tell our own stories and not allow someone else to tell our stories. I think that's the one thing that that connects us all. And if we have a connected approach to taking back our narrative and being able to say, no, this is not the way it's supposed to go. This is the way it's supposed to go. I think we will make great progress. I myself at the Sanchez Center for Health Equity, I'm addressing a crisis that affects many Black and brown people, um, that we don't know about. Uh, we, even though there's 31% of us in the United States, we represent over 66% of the people waiting for an organ donation, a kidney. Uh, we tend to die quicker on waiting on the waiting list than our Caucasian brothers and sisters.
Is there a
How do
reason?
we
Is there a
fix
reason
that?
why? I don't want to cut you off, but I had to just jump in and ask the question because when we see these numbers and statistics like that, what can we glean from this other than the fact that yes, we do know that there's a disparity, but what are some of the other things that maybe the general public may be missing?
So one of them is that we have to redefine what our relationship with the healthcare system looks like. We have to, and by doing this, there's two things that go here. We have a long history where the health system has failed us, big time, and we can go through it, right? Tuskegee, the women in Puerto Rico with, um, you know, the pill, um, and those stories get passed down through generations and generations. And we have to, a, not be afraid to deal with some of these systems and gain our trust back. But two, we cannot be afraid to tell the health system, you need to pay not only better attention to me, but you have to give me better quality health care. Um, and I'm hoping that as a group that we are able to approach the healthcare system and say, this is what we need, and this is what, first of all, identify what's happening to us, and then say, this is what we need, and can you help us achieve that? Um, we have no choice but to deal with the healthcare system. So rather than running away from it, we need to approach it and challenge it and demand that we get better services.
Yeah. So for the public right now who wants to participate, we talk about civic engagement here on the show, getting the people to become more involved. Where can they go? What can they do to find out more information and connect with you and your cause?
So right now, you can go to the We in the World website, and I work with We in the World with Chromatic Black. They have been very instrumental in helping not only us get organized, but uh, to be able to tell our stories and to say, um, we demand that we have a better approach to the healthcare system. So um, I can be reached through We in the World, and we could take it from there.
All right. Well, certainly I want to thank you for taking the opportunity to talk with us. I mean, I think there's a lot that we can deal with when it comes to the issue of inequities, and really raising our voice and raising the issues are really the most important. And when we talk about
I
the healthcare system, it's huge.
I also want to thank you for taking this on, and I think you're helping, tremendously by telling these stories and giving us the avenue to not only express our concerns, but to say, hey, this is what's going on, to let the community know this is what's going on. How can we have a concerted effort towards changing some of these things? I think a lot of us don't realize um, that we can challenge the system to do better, um, and that we can say, hey, let's all have this national approach to making our experience a better experience, a healthier experience.
Yeah, Robert, I thank you. I think, that's our job. We have to raise awareness and we have to continue to raise our voice and put these issues out there at the forefront. And thankfully, we have a platform such as the Social Justice Show to be able to talk about this. And that's what we want to talk about, the inequities. And you highlight them very well. And I know you got your conference coming up Thursday, April 27th, for those who want to know. April 27th from 9 to 12, Changing the System Together. You can go ahead and be a part of the discussion. And also you can be a part of the action if you come on the 27th, 9 to 12 p.m. Robert Sanchez, thank you so much. We got to leave it there, brother, but good to have you with us.
Thanks a lot, brother.
All right. Taking a quick break. We have more show after this.